Hey, it's Chris, and so I thought I would take it outside today. Spring is almost here and the sweaters will soon be gone. Hopefully the birds aren't too loud in the background, but I just really want to get outside today because it's such a beautiful day and talk about the fact that I have got 60,000 miles on my certified pre-owned used Chevy Volt in today's video. Car had approximately 40,000 miles whenever I purchased it. I put another 20,000 on it in the almost 2 years that I've owned it. So 60,000 miles is a good amount of wear on a car. So I'm going to talk about the things I've loved with the car and the issues that I've had with the car, because I have had a few. So we'll talk about kind of the things that I love about the car first. Obviously, the number one selling point of this car, besides it being a plug-in hybrid, is the price. And the fact that you can get a car that will drive fully EV for 36 miles with a backup gas motor for, I paid $15,500 2 years ago. Certified pre-owned with a lot of warranty left on the parts that you would care about, which is that electric Voltec system that they call it. So that $15,500 is just a crazy deal for this car. It is so cheap, and the fact it was that cheap is really why when I'm thinking about things like the Model 3, I'm like, oh man, $15,500 for this thing. It was so cheap to buy. It's just such a value. Speaking of value, the other ridiculously awesome thing about this car is with that 36 mile range, I think it has around 11 kilowatt hour battery. I'm sure there are YouTube videos that you can watch that talk about kilowatts and all that stuff. That's what I'm not going to do in this video. Instead, what I'm going to talk about is the fact that you can charge this thing from your outlet overnight. If you're getting home 5 or 6 in the evening, you're plugging in and you're not leaving until 5 or 6 in the morning, then you're gonna have no problems charging this thing up overnight. So that's awesome. It's a cheap entry level to get into electric car. You don't need that expensive, level 2 chargers. Those are great to have. I did get one put in for my wife's i3, but you don't need that. And the fact that you don't, and you can plug this in and start charging with electricity. Where I live, electricity is super cheap. It's like 10 cents a kilowatt. So there is a little display on the i3 that'll show you how much you're using, so that it kind of takes any thought you need to, it kind of gives you an idea of what that means. So I use around 2.5 to 3 kilowatts to drive to work, and I use 2.5 to 3 to come back. So if it's 10 cents a kilowatt hour based upon my electricity rate, because we have a flat rate here, then you're talking 60 cents. If I run electricity a lot and I go higher than that, it could be 70 cents. Either way, still less than $1 a day. So, that, and you're not buying gas, just to drive to work and back. So you're saving a significant amount of money on this already cheap car. So just that value just keeps, amping up, it keeps like multiplying. So, that is really, I think, the other huge, awesome positive when it comes to these certified pre-owned Chevy Volts. Another awesome feature of this car is it's finally awesome, kind of springish. We're almost there to spring. And so the temperatures have been really cold during the winter. So it's awesome that you can, for this such cheap car, go and download the My Chevy app, get set up with your account, and then pre-condition your car. Now other cars have this, electric car or gas cars can do this too, but I still think it's pretty sweet that you can go on the app, and if I'm going to go, we're shopping or at the mall or something or wherever, and it's freezing cold outside, to go in about approximately 10 minutes before we get out or we're checking out or whatever, go ahead and hit pre-condition. It takes about 30 seconds for it to process up to the cloud and get pushed down to your car. But the car will actually go into this preconditioned state. That's where it'll actually turn on, if it's cold outside, it'll turn on the heat. And I'm talking, it'll blast that heat. So by the time you come out, the car is super cozy inside. Yeah, you use quite a bit of electricity to do that, but I think that is awesome. If you have an Apple Watch, there's actually a little button you can put on the front of it. It goes straight to it, and that's another really easy way to kind of start that. It also works in the summer. You know, this thing has black interior, so it's a, you know, it's a grayish, blackish car. So I can go in and, you know, if we're getting ready to leave, again, the mall or wherever, go ahead, hit precondition, and it'll start trying to cool the car down inside so it's not so hot. So when those extreme weather temperatures, it's awesome to be able to do that. So the last thing that I love about this car is something I never thought I would have loved, but now that I've started to use it, it's amazing. And that's the hatchback. You have a crazy amount of space in the back of this car, and it's so easy to put stuff in it. If you take out, I have a car seat in there, if you take that out, fold down the seats, I think I got 15 bags of mulch. I think I could have put more back there. I didn't want to put too much weight in the car, but I mean, this thing is amazing when it comes to the ability to haul stuff. I mean, it is like a little Volt truck, you know, whenever it comes to putting stuff in it. And that was something I was never expecting whenever I purchased it. So the first thing that I don't like is the range. 36 miles of range is enough for me to get to work and back. But I really, if I go too far for lunch, I don't stay kind of close to the town of where I work. If I want to go to a nearby town to have lunch with some of my coworkers, I usually will have to go and use gasoline. The other thing is, yeah, it has all those cool features with preconditioning, and the heat and air conditioning is pretty good. But if you use it too much, like you go full on comfort mode, which is the highest setting for your air conditioning and your heat, then that range cuts down drastically. You're talking that 36 miles is probably close to like 25 or 26 miles, which is enough for me to get to work and back, but that's about it. The 2016 and later Chevy Volts, or the second gen Volts, they do have, I believe it's a 53 mile range. So that is kind of where, for me in my day-to-day life, I think would be a little more practical. But again, those were significantly more expensive whenever I bought my car, and they're also more expensive now. So it's really, you gotta look at what price you're wanting to pay for this car. So the next thing is, and I've mentioned this in previous videos that I've done on the Volt, is how loud the gasoline motor is when you need to use it. So if you're doing road trips, this is not a very good road trip, long range car. What I mean by that is, if you can just get over how loud the motor sounds. It sounds like it's an underpowered gasoline motor, and yeah, it can use some of the electricity from the battery to help augment that motor. But I mean, if you really need to pass someone, or you know, a lot of power, and you're just on the gas motor, there's a little bit of a delay. It'll spin up that motor quite a bit. It is somewhat loud. It's not the end of the world, and honestly, the daily electricity driving that you do more than makes up for it. And I don't do a ton of road trips. I mean, I do a road trip with this airplane, finish flying over. So if you're doing these road trips, and you're doing a lot of them, it'll be it's just annoying. It's not the end of the world annoying. It's like 10% annoying. You know, like 1 out of 10. I don't know, however you want to say it. It's not the end of the world. And honestly, when you get on kind of interstates and places you can put the cruise control on, it'll kind of lower the RPM of that motor, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just whenever you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to go around this truck kind of fast or something, or I need to accelerate because of an on-ramp or something, it's not a very powerful vehicle for that. So when I've done long range rides, I just set it on whatever the speed limit is, put the cruise control on, kind of get in them whatever middle lane and cruise along, and just kind of relax and enjoy the ride, I guess. So I did have a kind of issue with the vehicle, and I wouldn't really necessarily it's the vehicle, I would say it's the 12-volt battery. This is a common issue on really electric cars, not just the Volt, is you have these 12-volt batteries, and they're the same kind of a little more expensive than the ones that are in just a regular gasoline powered car. But the problem you run into is whenever that battery starts to go bad, like you're driving your whatever Toyota Camry and you're trying to start it up, and it doesn't delayed, it's struggling, but it starts up. You're like, something's wrong with this car, I need to go take it to the dealership. And then they, you know, it's probably a battery. So you replace that battery and everything's good. You had some type of signal as to why the battery's not working, or that your battery's starting to fail. With electric car, the battery isn't used, the 12 volt battery that's in these cars isn't used for like a starter. So you don't really, it's used to power like the electronics when you first boot it up. I believe it's used to also power, like you have OnStar, like navigation, you know, that ability to start it remotely. All that's kind of powered by that 12 volt battery. And then the battery's charged with it has a system, it doesn't have an alternator, but it has a system that when you're running the car, it's taking power from those big giant batteries that power the wheels, and it's charging that 12 volt battery. But you don't have any idea when it's going bad. So you literally go from it working perfectly fine one day to your car not wanting to start the next. And this car, like, you can't put it in neutral. It is where it is where it's setting at. So I did have that happen. It's probably more an issue of the battery, but it's also kind of a symptom of how electric cars work. So what I recommend is every 3 or 4 years, if you don't want to get stranded, you got two options really. What I recommend is either swap out that battery every 3 or 4 years, which is what we're looking at doing with my wife's car, her i3, because it's getting pretty old and it has not been swapped out. Or the other option, which is what I have done since I've replaced my battery, which is I bought one of those external battery packs. They make pretty large ones that you can actually plug in jumper cables to. And it also will charge your cell phone too. And it does a bunch of other stuff too. I think it's like a radio. But I bought one of those. I'll put the link to the one I got. It may not be a radio, but I'll put the link to the one I got down below. So I have that. The Volt is really easy, which is what I had to do. I had to jump it, get it home. And then I actually had that battery pack already. So I jumped it again to get it to the dealership for them to basically spend 5 hours to tell me that the battery's bad. And then they didn't have the battery. So then I had to wait like another hour to get the battery. So it was a 6-hour ordeal for what I thought would be under maybe 2 hours. I mean, worst case scenario, come on, 2 hours to fix that battery. I think this is, reasonable. So not a fan of the Chevy dealership. The car's awesome, Chevy dealership not so much. But so I got it all fixed, and I now have that battery pack charged up and in my car. And it's great because I threw a lightning cable in there for the iPhone. So another option of how we can charge our phones, whenever we're traveling. So recommend you get one of those. So that's been my experience with my certified pre-owned 2014 used Chevy Volt. It has been an awesome car. I have loved owning it. You can't beat that value when it comes to how cheap they are. The fact you can get 2 of these things for the cost of the cheapest Model 3 you can buy, but you can't beat that price. I mean, $15,500 I think is what I paid for mine. You're looking at the 2016s with that longer range being around $20,000. So you just can't beat the value. You can get that electric experience all from this vehicle. Very, very cheap. It is sad to hear, obviously a few months ago it was announced that they are no longer going to be producing and they discontinued the Chevy Volt. And it's sad. I love this car. The silver lining to all this is that the 2019 is the last year and there'll be plenty of used ones out there over the next few years. If you have questions, comments, thoughts on this video, put them down in the comments. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.